One last thing, you should also know that ahead of Mueller's testimony, just today there was a big new volley from the Democratic-controlled Congress to the Justice Department, and specifically to SDNY, which is the Southern District of New York, the U.S. Attorney's Office, that this week unsealed documents on a judge's order that related to the hush money case, the campaign finance felonies case that put the president's longtime lawyer, Michael Cohen, in federal prison. In a letter today to SDNY, to that U.S. Attorney's Office, Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings is demanding information from the prosecutor's office about why it is that Michael Cohen was the only one charged with those felonies, and whether or not the president would have been charged with those felonies if he were someone other than the president, and whether or not Maine Justice and Attorney General Bill Barr interceded in that case to shut it down with no further charges being brought and with lines of inquiry being cut off involving the president's business. Cummings has told SDNY as of today he wants copies of any immunity deals that were granted. He wants evidence that was collected in the case against Michael Cohen. He wants evidence specifically related to the president's potential involvement in those felonies. He wants answers. He wants written answers. Quote, did your office conduct an investigation into potential criminal conduct by the President of the United States? Did your office collect evidence of the President's direct participation in potential criminal conduct? Did your office not indict the President due in part or in whole to the Department of Justice policy that prohibits the indictment of a sitting president? What was the involvement or influence of the Attorney General, William Barr, in any decisions in this case? For any potential crimes relating to your investigation, did your office, the Attorney General, or any other Justice Department official render a prosecutorial judgment with respect to the president? And it goes on and on and on. I mean, the last question he asks is, why have no other participants in the campaign finance violations been charged with a crime? And I will tell you, the likelihood that SDNY is going to respond to Chairman Elijah Cummings and hand over all this material that he's requesting is about the same likelihood that I'm going to hit a land speed record this weekend on my crutches. No, it's not going to happen. I mean, U.S. attorneys' offices don't respond to inquiries from the Hill. I mean, they may get something from Maine Justice, but that'll be controlled by William Barr. And what's he going to say? Yeah, I did it. Ahead of Mueller's testimony, though, I do think that this volley from Elijah Cummings is important. Because this is a direct sort of shot across the bow at the Justice Department that they should have to explain their decisions, and they should have to explain who made those decisions, at least and specifically when it comes to potential criminal behavior by the President of the United States, and the Justice Department collecting evidence of that and assessing what should be done about it. So this is why you have to study this weekend. I mean, it's still going to be a good weekend, but for citizenship class, which convenes with double days next week, we all have to do a little bit of homework. More ahead tonight. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.